Okay, LaRae, story time. Years ago, I met a doctor, and I'm going to try to keep this very anonymous. I met a doctor who inherited an office manager when they purchased a practice. And that's very common, right? You inherit staff. And they let the office manager run the billing. It was a brand new doctor, didn't know a ton about billing, and they kind of let the office manager just sort of run the billing. And they did it without a ton of oversight. Didn't really know any better. Office manager came with the practice, had a ton of experience, so said, go for it, right? And for the first couple of years, things were going pretty well. The doctor told me. Money came in, patients were really, really happy, and it seemed like it was a relatively smooth practice transition. And unfortunately, where I entered the story was where it was discovered that that office manager had committed pretty significant insurance fraud. So what we determined was that there had, and I'm going to say, honestly, I would like to say all of this, let's just go ahead and throw out the word alleged, because it's not like there was ever any prosecution. It's not like we ever went forward with any legal stuff. This is all in my determination. This is my opinion. This is what
you found.
This is what I sort of determined. But billing for procedures that were not done, misusing patient benefits, falsifying documents. But I mean, the bottom line is that this is not a horror story. This really happened. I experienced this. I uncovered this. I saw this happen in an office, and it's not impossible that it can happen to literally any office. And two really important things that I think that everybody should remember as we go forward talking about this. Number one, once the doctor was aware of everything and started to fix it, here's kind of a really important thing to remember. Both the insurance companies and the patients were super willing to work with them and make it right. Super willing. And number two, this was entirely avoidable. Literally entirely avoidable if there was a system of accountability established.
Right.
If there was a known reinforced culture of ethics and accountability that came from the top down in the office, if that had existed, this would not have happened. But, the doctor didn't know what they didn't know. And that's why we're going to talk about what we are going to talk about today. And so that's a cautionary tale. And here we go.
Welcome to the Truth Decay Podcast, talking dollars and cents with Sara Baker and LaRae McMullen.
So, LaRae, today we're unpacking why ethical billing isn't just about compliance. It's actually about clarity, efficiency, and sustainable profit.
So we know what we're talking about here. Legality and ethics are distinct concepts. Yeah. Legality refers to adherence to laws and rules, while ethics sort of deals with moral principles and values that maybe, help guide your behavior. Yeah. Legality is enforced by the state through a formal system, while ethics often relies on personal values and social norms.
Yeah. And, they feed each other sometimes, but sometimes being ethical is hard, man.
Sure.
It's a hard concept to talk about because sometimes it's kind of subjective.
Yeah, I was going to say it's different it can be different for everybody, right?
Yeah. Especially a lot of times when you're talking about it in the dental office, sometimes it's easier and more profitable to just not think about ethics and not factor them in. Instances where you see crown and crown build every single time together. Whether or not they are really done together, those two codes bundled together every single time.
Yeah.
That's really more a question of ethics, if you really think about it, right? But I don't think a lot of people think about it like that. But then the concept of legality gets tied into it if somebody calls you out on it. and says,
Right.
well, wait a second, you have to justify every single one of those buildups, right? Even though you may not have been thinking about it like that, you have to, because it's better, it's more efficient, and ultimately more profitable to think about it. You have to have that ethical mindset that you need to really bill for what you've done, right?
Sure. So back to our real life example, how did this dentist end up in that position?
Yeah.
What happened to get from purchasing a practice and being a new owner dentist to owing, spoiler alert, over $75,000 to various insurance carriers and patients?
Yeah. So the reason that I brought up that particular experience is because I would say that there were definitely a few key factors that came together, like kind of the perfect storm, to make that situation happen. Maybe somebody listening might go, oh, that actually resonates with me, you know? The biggest factor, I would say, was that this dentist never reviewed day sheets or balance deposits. And hands down, unchecked reports absolutely breed a situation where at best, rampant mistakes get made, but at worst, somebody could be making some really horrible decisions and choices on your behalf, right? And I mean, we see this constantly, and this can be done simply because, right, like it becomes habit. You don't have time at the end of the day, super busy, you get behind in your schedule. You know, sitting down and looking at that day sheet takes time. It takes time to go through every single one of those, or even the next morning, right before your day that you're sitting down and kind of thinking back to the day before, becomes less of a priority, right? Or balancing your deposit slip, again, just seems like it might not be something that is all that vital to do. But again, there could be things happening that right under your nose that you are not privy to.
Sure. So we want to make sure that we're doing these systematic things and, not avoiding the inevitable that could be there. A couple of weeks ago, we had an episode where we talked about this a little bit, about not having that system. Money coming in, you feel okay, but there's still more things to look at besides just, hey, money's coming in, I can pay the bills, I've got some money to spend, whatever. Essentially, in this instance, there was a real culture of avoidance, right? So the decisions that the office manager was making made daily operations appear smooth. The patients weren't asking any questions because patient portions were, air quote, taken care of, right? And there was never a question of, should we do this or what about this code, until it all came crashing down.
That's right. Yep. And I think a real culture of avoidance is something that we're probably going to come back to over and over again, because again, it's so much easier to not ask yourself these questions when patients ask good questions. What's going on with this claim? Why is this patient, is this portion due? Why is this taking so long? Why didn't you tell me about this? Right. And you're not going to have good answers for them if you don't have a system. Right? It's always a system. If you have a system, you're going to have great answers. Yeah. But if you don't have a system, you're not going to have good answers. This particular office didn't have systems. The system they had was some alleged fraud, right? And I mean, like, that's not a great answer.
Nobody's saying anything, so it must all be running smooth.
Yeah, exactly. So it again, kind of a perfect storm to, so in this instance, let's talk about how to implement some safeguards, right? Yeah. So to protect yourself from this, first and foremost, review your day sheets. Yeah. Like doctors, you have to be reviewing your day sheets.
For so many reasons, though, not just this one. I mean, I don't understand how you could really not review your day sheets.
I agree with you, because, I mean, honestly, let's appeal also to the concept of, like, you're probably losing out on money. Mm-hmm. If you're not reviewing your day sheets. Because if you let's say you treatment plan like a one surface filling, And then it takes a while for the patient to actually make that appointment. And then by the time you make the appointment, the patient comes in, you get into the patient's mouth. Maybe it's a 3 surface filling by that time. And you make that Yeah. And then you make that determination when you're in the patient's mouth. Talk to the patient. They say, yeah, of course, please fix whatever you have to fix. And then, but it gets posted as a 1 surface because that's what was treatment planned. You need to be able to catch that, right? And so sometimes it's caught, but sometimes it's not. Hey man, I get it. The reimbursement rates are, you're fighting those. That's an uphill battle. So you need to be able to bill for everything that you can, everything of value that you really did, you should be reimbursed for it. So, I mean, that's another reason why you should absolutely be reviewing your day sheet. But again, in the context of this conversation, to protect yourself, right? You need to make sure that you are you confident that what's being posted is actually what was done, right? So second, along the same lines, check your deposits. I am actually kind of consistently shocked by the amount of offices that are not balancing their deposits, that are not checking what is being posted to their practice management software compared to what is actually hitting their banks. Right. And I don't even necessarily mean for accuracy. Like accuracy would be good, because human error happens. You accidentally leave off the 20 cents on a check. That completely happens, right? Or you transpose a number and instead of $120, it's $210. That you can correct that. That's easy. Yeah. Oh, 100%. Even for people like us, we have experts that do this every day and that happens constantly. But I mean, cash, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many offices we find sometimes there's a problem with cash being posted to patients' accounts, and then later you can't find it going to the bank. And it's simply because somebody knows that nobody's checking, right? So you need to be making sure that your practice management deposit slips are matching what is hitting your bank.
Yeah, and that for that reason exactly, it can't just be you, right? Your team needs to know what your stance is. So
that's right.
If they're ever in a situation where they have to choose between maybe making some more money or doing the right thing, they wouldn't hesitate because they would know where you stand on it and what decisions you would be making. Because at that point, they're making a decision on your behalf.
That's absolutely right. I think as a business owner, your team has to understand exactly where you stand on ethics and how you do business. And your team has to be in line with that. And so it has to come, I think I said this earlier, but it has to come from the top down. That if you are telling your team you have to behave in an ethical manner all the time, you have to walk the walk and you have to make sure that they're walking the walk too. And if you are demonstrating that and making sure that the way that you provide service and the way that you explain it to patients and the way that you bill and the way that you are, reinforcing it with posting, it's going to, trickle down. And people that don't line up with that, and if you are making sure that that's being implemented, they're not going to stick around if they don't agree, right? And that's on the business owner to make sure that happens.
Yeah. Sure. So you're going to train your team and have them understand the rules of insurance, know your contracts, know what you can and you can't charge, and make sure you're collecting patient portions correctly.
Absolutely.
That's all ethical, right? So contracts, that's where we get a lot into the ethics. Know what your contracts say. What are you allowed to do and not allowed to do? Sara, tell us about how there is a code of ethics in the dental.
There literally is. So the ADA has a code of conduct, and you can actually go to the American Dental Association, and there's an entire section. There's an entire code of conduct that you can read, and it tells a lot that people might not be aware of. Yeah. It covers overbilling. It covers not writing off patient portions, for instance. An upcoming episode that we're going to do is called Understanding Patient Portions, and we're actually going to be getting into it a little bit deeper, but patient portions aren't optional.
Right.
Spoiler alert for a future episode. Sorry, everybody, but and it says that in the ADA Code of Ethics. So this is actually a really important topic, right? And I would encourage everybody to go to the American Dental Association, look up the Code of Ethics, review it, because there might be some stuff in there that, again,
you just weren't aware of. Like, we're not saying anybody's doing anything, on purpose. There's so many things in dentistry that are just not right out there in front of your face. So learning these things can really help you, grow your business and run it ethically.
Absolutely. And I think there are so many times that, because we do this every day, right?
Yeah.
Like posting and kind of dealing with things like patient portions and looking at what the insurance company is telling us you can charge and what you're not allowed to charge, etc. And we explain it to a practice owner, and they are like, I just literally didn't understand that.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that the thing that I've been doing for years, actually, I shouldn't be doing. And that's
specifically on the patient portion, right? Like you said, not optional. They think they're actually doing something that's so kind and nice and becoming, helping out their patients. But, there's more to the story than that.
This is not meant to be a gotcha. This is absolutely not meant to kind of be like, tell me what you did. But it's more like, okay, guys, let's sit down and let's look. Like, let's just look this over and see if there's anything any of us need to do to improve, right? Yourself included. I would say, like, as the business owner, sit down and go, okay, is there anything like I did that was crazy? Did I delete something? Because the audit trail report, depending on what practice management software you're using, it will show the user that did the deleting. So be prepared to kind of say, did I delete something? Did I change something that perhaps would make your job harder, right? And
doing this with all your staff can be a learning, experience as
absolutely.
Well. Just because I could make a mistake, and if you don't know what mistake I made, you're not going to learn from it. I'm the only one going to learn from it. You're going to make that mistake later and then have to learn from it later, right? So let's do it all together.
But part of the truth is, you want your staff to know that you're looking. That's part of it. You want them to understand that there is accountability. There is a culture not of avoidance, but of accountability. I am looking at this. I am in this. My hands are in this, right? And like the bottom line is that you hope that they're looking at this kind of glass half full, right? That's the kind of culture that you want to inspire. And you want your staff to feel supported and not micromanaged. And that's kind of a whole, separate sort of approach. But the bottom line is that you don't want to do what kind of our sample dentist did, which is full hands off, kind of la-la-laing. And that's where we kind of, went to Fraud Town.
All right, Sarah. So what are the action steps that our listeners can take ASAP?
So action steps that they can take literally today. First thing, print and review and initial your day sheets. Like literally today, every doctor, print it, review it, initial it, and save it somewhere. So I think you should do that every day. Like scan them. You don't have to keep a physical copy of it. Most everybody has a scanner. You can keep a physical copy if you want to, but I would recommend like scanning it and then just keeping a digital copy of it, because that way you have a permanent record of.
Or print a PDF.
You could do that too. Yeah, you don't even have to have like an actual physical, copy
Scanner,
of it anywhere. But that way you have a copy of what it looked like the day that you did it and that you said, yes, this is what I did. Because someday
I sign up on this.
That's right. Because someday down the line, if let's say, I don't know, random example, 15 fillings are posted to that day to a patient that wasn't even in and billed, you didn't approve that. You know what I mean? And then you get to like prove that you didn't know about that, or you at least have a leg to stand on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say, so if the worst case scenario happened and you were getting audited by an insurer, then you'd have this to fall back on. Like, this is the things that we actually did, right? And kind of talking about the clinical notes that we'll be talking about in another series, but
That's
yeah.
right. Exactly. And then the second thing that you could do also is, well, along that same lines, deposit slips. Print your deposit slip, and you need to at least in the office match what you have in your hand in terms of the checks, the EFTs that you posted, the physical, the cash, right? If you took any care credit, anything, to what is in your practice management software. And you need to ask your staff to print deposit slips, check mark. They need to account for the money that they took over the counter for you and the money that they posted into your practice management software. They need to show you an accounting and hand it to you at the end of the day. Second thing, this month, take your staff to lunch, right? So this is a high recommendation for me. Take your staff to lunch. If you can't take them to lunch, maybe have lunch ordered in. Lay out your expectations. Have a conversation about this. So do you think, does your staff understand how you feel about billing and accountability? I don't think this is a topic that gets really talked about all that often. Ask yourself honestly, do you have a process in place for this? Do you know what's happening in your own office? Like, what's your culture? Do you have a culture of avoidance or do you have a culture of accountability? Which one do you have? And does your staff know it? Would they be able to tell you? If you asked them honestly, are you scared to ask? If you're scared to ask, I could probably tell you which one you have.
You might know the answer. Yeah. All right. So top takeaways.
Number 1, ethical billing builds trust with patients, teams, and insurers.
Right. Number 2, we say it all the time, right? Systems, not memory or good intentions, will protect your reputation. We need those systems.
And number 3, you can't delegate accountability. Oversight absolutely must come from the top. So to the dentist thinking, yikes, listen, start today. You are the one who's left holding the bag. And you have the power to change all of this. If you don't know where to begin, go download our free checklist. We're going to have a free checklist for you on the truthdecaypodcast.com. For this episode, this is going to be episode 5. Go download the checklist and go through some of these things. And it's going to help kind of walk you through a little bit of what you're going to need to start asking yourself to start somewhere.
Yeah, and to those overwhelmed office managers, if something feels off, speak up about it. Honestly, most practice owners just don't know the rules, so you're not alone.
That's right. Yep. So that's it. Like, thanks everybody so much for listening. It's crazy. Yeah. Hopefully somebody's listening again. We say it. We're going to probably stop saying that at some point. But listen, please, if you are so inclined, come find us, thetruthDecayPodcast.com. Shoot us an email, hello@thetruthDecayPodcast.com. We're also at sddentalsolutions.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook. Share this with a colleague, perhaps, who maybe they're a little freaked out about something going on in their office. Share this with them, and we would be happy to talk to them about whatever's going on in their office. So next week we are going to be talking about coding, and we're going to call the episode Code Like You Mean It, Real Strategies for Dental Teams. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate it. Bye.